How you doing, sir?
I'm fine. How are you?
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing what you got to ask me.
Man, I just well, honestly, it's funny because I know you've been you guys have had quite a successful run already in the years you've been in business here locally. And just getting to know you a little bit, I didn't realize that you had such a really big background in barbecue. And that's one of my I would say side hustle hobbies that's turned into a business as well. But it's just I want to hear kind of just the transition of how you got into what you're doing now, but the evolution of that. If you just want to start.
Yeah, barbecue is where I started. And it's kind of funny the way it happened. I was at Centenary, and I was on a full golf scholarship, and I was going to play professional golf.
Okay.
And my dad was in the insurance business and owned his own agency, and it's called Montelepre Insurance Agency. And he wanted me to come with him after I graduated. And of course, I tried selling insurance a few summers, and it just wasn't my deal, And I don't know, just one day he used to eat with Mr. Leon almost every day. My dad loved barbecue, and he used to eat over every day. And just out of the blue one day, he said, "What do you think about going into barbecue business?" I said, "What are you talking about?" I mean, just out of the blue. And he said, "Well, he said, I've got to know Mr. Leon pretty well, and he wants to open another store, and he's willing to sell the store on Kings Highway." I said, "Dad," I don't know anything about restaurant business. And he says, "All I want you to do is just come sit and listen. We're going to have a meeting, me, you, and him, and just listen to what he has to say and just see how you feel about it." I said, "Well, I don't have a problem doing that." And after, talking to Leon and seeing the business he did in that little bitty, it was a little small spot. I mean, it was like 400 square feet.
Yeah.
He had like 15 stools. And I couldn't believe when he opened the books, the numbers he was doing. And I mean, like I said, I knew nothing about the restaurant business, but I've always been good with numbers. And I said, and of course, he was always there and smoking a cigar and sitting on a stool, never did anything that really did, not much catering at all. And he had great hams and turkeys and didn't really sell those. And so I got looking at those numbers, and I said, if he can do this kind of business doing the way he operates, I said, I might give this a shot. So that's kind of how I got in it, and I did it for 30 years. In fact, we had, we had a great barbecue restaurant. In fact, we were, I'll never forget the first time they did a local barbecue contest in a city. I think the Times did it, and we were number one. It wasn't even close. I mean, I think we had, just off the top of my head, I want to say 200 or 300 votes, and the second place one had like 20 votes. I mean, it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
And we had a great product, great sauce, and we made a big sandwich, and we did everything from scratch. I had 2 flat pits, and we used real hickory wood and cooked off the fire, and we didn't cut any corners. And that's the deal with the barbecue. And that's the problem when I have these barbecue places today. They almost all of them, the meat has no flavor at all. It's all about the sauce, and that's no good. I mean, my meat, it had such a flavor. I had a great barbecue sauce, but you didn't have to put the sauce on the meat.
Yeah.
The meat itself had a flavor because of the hickory wood.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I did that for like 30 years, and then I tried to move it. Everything was kind of going. I was on East Kings Highway, and we opened a franchise. I say a franchise. Daddy and Leon, opened another restaurant on Monkhouse about 2 or 3 years after I bought the Kings Highway store.
What year was this? Would this been?
I think it was around 78.
Okay.
78, because I got out of college in 77. It was about 78 or 79. I got in the barbecue business. So I tried to move the Kings Highway store to South Shreveport because I saw 5 years ahead of time. I saw how everything was going south, and but the problem I had by the time I bought an acre of land and built my restaurant, it was going to cost me $2 million, and I had a $5 sandwich.
And that's back then.
Yeah, and I couldn't make the numbers work.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got a $50 steak at two Johns.
Yeah.
So you can spend a little bit on your place, but when you got a $5 sandwich and you got a $2 million, it's no good. It won't work. So I just felt like, so I eventually got out of the business and started doing something else. And I thought I was really done with the food business, until my son wound up being a chef out of college, and here we are. So.
Well, the barbecue thing's interesting because what do you think? What would you think? Like, what would you tell anyone? Because it's interesting. A lot of people get into barbecue. You got into it for business, which is awesome, cool to hear. Because I didn't really know that, but like knowing it and being in it so long, what would you tell people that getting into it? Because there's so many people that do it as a hobby, and then eventually, kind of like what happened with me, I started doing it as a hobby and cooking for people I knew, and next kind of how some people start up restaurants and stuff, and then turn into doing it all the damn time. My wife's like, look, if you're gonna do this all the time, you gotta make some damn money, you know. And so I started doing the catering aspect of it and the competition stuff. But what have you seen, like, and what would you say stood out as why you kept doing it, other than just the money?
Well, I mean, the reason I kept doing it is I made money.
Right.
But you know, the thing about the barbecue business, it's a young man's business. You know, I mean, to me, I tell everybody, you know, we've been in business at Two Johns now for 16 years, and I tell everybody this is a lot easier gig than the barbecue was, and they look at me like, what are you talking about? I said, well, we were so small in the barbecue business. I mean, I had a manager the last 15 years, but even so, he and I did all the cooking every day. We get down there, you know, have to load those pits and all that stuff, and you know, and then you know, when it came to Thanksgiving and Christmas, if I told you how many turkeys and hams I sold, you'd call me a liar. I had one account bought 4,000 from me.
What?
We of course, it didn't start off that way.
Right.
He started off buying a couple hundred, and every year it just grew. But I had pretty much all the offshore casinos in the country. I had like 10 of them. They did business with me, and we'd ship turkeys to all our clients, and they loved me because everybody loved getting that turkey.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a young man's deal. You know, at Two Johns, I have, you know, my son's a general manager, and then he's got 3 managers underneath him. So I have 4 managers there. And so it's a total, I pretty much delegate, you know, and John runs the restaurant, and so it's a totally different deal. But when you're small in the barbecue business like I was, you know, you do it all.
Yeah.
You know, it's a real tough business. I really wouldn't want to do it again. It's just, you know, back when you're young, you do what you got to do.
Yeah.
You know, and I was never afraid of work. I mean, I worked my fanny off for 30 years, and we were very successful and did very well. But it's a tough business. You know, restaurants a tough business anyway. You know, but the barbecue business, if you do it right, is really tough.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I really wish I'd have been doing fine dining the whole time. But when I was young, I couldn't afford to do fine dining.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, it's a tough go. It really is. It's long.
Yeah, I've noticed that, man. It's put a lot of hours on me for sure.
Yeah,
Not a lot of sleep for not that much reward, but there is reward, and there's reward, and you know this. There's reward in when you look at someone and they enjoy it so much, and that rapport that you carry.
Well, that's the thing. You know, you got, you know, the restaurant business. It's either in your blood or it's not.
Yeah.
It's in my blood, and it's in my son's blood, and you know, you almost has to be in your blood to do it. Although I will say, like I said, our Two Johns is a totally different animal than that barbecue restaurant.
Well, yeah. So let's get right into that. So how was that born? Tell me the evolution of, you know, that, and just how it come about.
Well, it's you know, what really happened was my son, he's John Montelepre III. I'm John Montelepre Jr. My dad was John Montelepre Sr. My dad's died in 2004. But you know, he was at Louisiana Tech, and he worked with me some when he was younger, before he went to college, you know, during the holidays with the turkeys and hams. Nothing extensively or anything, but he'd help. And yeah, so he kind of got a little taste of the restaurant business. And then when he went off to Tech, I paid for, you know, his I think he was on Tops, but I paid for the dorm and his books and all that. But he actually had a couple restaurant jobs just for spending money. And so he was working a couple different jobs, and he did that for like 4 years over there. And in fact, the last couple of years, he was at what's that big place? He was cooking the steaks at some big place over there, the biggest little spot over there in Ruston.
Used to be Rabs.
Rabs.
Yeah, Rabs.
John, the last 2 years, he cooked all the steaks.
Okay.
You know, so he kind of got a taste of that, and I think they had a bar too, and I think he might have maybe tended bar a little bit. I'm not sure about that, but anyway, so he kind of got a little taste of that, and then the summer before his senior year, Phil Barberie that owns Superior, Phil and I were friends and played a lot of golf together and been to Vegas a bunch. And John went over there, and I'm not exactly sure. I don't know if Phil called him initially or what happened. my memory's getting bad. You know, as you get older, you got this to look forward to. When you get older, your memory's not as sharp. Okay?
Yeah.
Anyway, John worked over there for the summer and as a training as a pastry chef. And he worked over there 3 months. And Phil called me at the end of the 3 months. John went back to school, and he said, "Man, your son," he said, "you need to push him to go to culinary school." He said, "He's very talented, and he gets along with everybody, and this and that, and his work ethic's good." And I said, "Well, you know, Phil," I said, "I'm not going to push him to go to culinary school." I said, "If he wants to do that, that's fine. But I'm going to let him do what he wants to do, you know." So John went ahead and finished his senior year, and it wasn't 2 weeks after he had graduated. John called me one day and said, "Dad, guess who called me today?" I said, "Who?" He said, "Mr. Barberie." I said, "What'd he want?" He said, "He offered me a job as either a pastry chef or a sous chef." And I can't remember the number, but it was a pretty big number salary-wise. And I told him, I said, "Well, I thought you were kind of fed up with the food business." He said, "Dad," he said, "I really enjoyed it. I'd never been paid what I thought I was worth." He was always working for minimum wage,
Gotcha,
you know.
yeah.
And I said, "Well, give it a shot." I said, "In 3 or 4 months, if it's not what you want," I said, "do something else." So he started there and worked there actually for about, I want to say about 3 years. And then Phil decided to do lunch. John, it was just a nighttime place initially. And then when he decided to do lunch, their hours, they were working just outrageous hours. I think initially he had a couple of days off, but when he started doing lunch, he took a day away from him, and they only had 1 day off. And they were working like, I don't know, 70, 80 hours a week. You know, Phil wanted you there early. And anyway, so he was, thinking about moving. He had a buddy in Austin, and wasn't sure what he was going to do. And I always wanted to do fine dining, and I always wanted to do a steakhouse. And
what made you want to do that?
I don't know, just one of those things.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really can't tell you what made me want to do that. I don't know. I kind of like.
Do you think maybe experiences abroad, maybe, or something like?
I just think the glamour. I had the restaurant business in my blood, and it just was. I guess maybe glamorous to have a steakhouse as opposed to a barbecue place.
Which it is, yeah.
Where you're wearing blue jeans and a shirt, you got
grease
grease all over you and all that stuff. Whereas you're dressed up in a jacket, and it's a little different deal. But anyway, so I just told him one day. I said, "Let's go do a restaurant." And he looked at me and said, "You serious?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "What kind of restaurant are you going to do?" I said, "Well," you're a sous chef, pastry chef. I said, "I'll get a chef out of New Orleans." I said, "Let's go do a steakhouse." And he said, "You're serious?" I said, "Yeah." So we started looking for locations, and we both live in Shreveport and still do. And of course, we wanted to open in Shreveport, but after looking around back then, 16, 17 years ago, they had 10 white tablecloth restaurants. Now, I don't know what they have now, but that's what they had back then. And Bossier they had Little Italiano, which was an Italian restaurant that was white tablecloth, and that was it. And I told John one day, I said, "John," I said, "we need to be in Bossier City." He said, "Why, Dad?" I said, "Well, there's no competition." I said, "We'll pull Shreveporters over there."
Yeah.
And I never dreamed that half my restaurant would be Shreveport every night, but I knew I'd pull some. And of course, you got, Mendon and all these small towns. And I knew if we did our job that Bossier would be behind us 110%. And Bossier's been really good to us. So anyway, we were just driving, looking for locations, and I saw that building. And I said, there's our restaurant right there, John. And it had been sitting there for about a year and a half, and it was just 4 walls and dirt. Bob Robinson owned it back then, and he left it unfinished so whoever wanted in there could finish it out. So it took us 14 months to build it out, and so here we are 16 years later. But and very blessed. Bossier's been so good to us.
Yeah.
I mean, when we first opened up, I had people coming there 2, 3, 4 times a week. They were going to make sure we made it, but we worked hard too. I've got a great staff. Our chef, Josh Wilkinson, has done a great job there. And Stacy, front of the house manager, has done a really good job. All my management's really, really good. And, of course, my son's done a fabulous job. And so, we worked hard, but we've been very blessed too. So I think both of them kind of go hand in hand. It's kind of funny, I don't know if you play any golf, but, it's kind of like Lee Trevino said. He said, the more balls I hit, the luckier I get.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing with work ethic. The harder you work, you seem to get a little luckier, if you put in hours. But
yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. It's a ratio of time over.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, the first 3 years there, it was we all worked hard, and I worked a lot more hours than I do now. I mean, ever since John, after about 3 years, I made John general manager, and he started wearing a lot of the hats I used to wear, and so it's kind of freed me up. And but I mean, if I'm in town, I go pretty much every night and touch tables, get a few bottles of wine, and I just really enjoy. It's kind of like having a party every night, just different guests.
Yeah.
So it's really fun for me. And but so that's how that happened.
Well, I like how I noticed things because I was before I got into the marketing industry, which I've been in the past 10 years, my other 10 previous 10 adult years, I was in oil and gas, and I worked my way up to sales. So I was going to a lot of fine dining restaurants and stuff like that. And I was traveling all over the United States. And I noticed that you took your customer relationship it makes it so much better, like the experience, because you treat it like I remember going in those you go to those towns and the barbecue restaurant, and somebody's coming, and it's the owner, the guy running it, coming to check on everybody.
Sure.
And you treat the fine dining the exact same way. Where a lot of places you don't see that. You might see the chef come out every now and then for a special occasion, but you don't see, like, I feel like I knew you before I even knew you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's one of the things, that, of course, I enjoy. I'm a people person. I enjoy that. And I just know how important it is. Kind of old school. Back years ago, a lot of the owners did that. It's kind of a lost art. And but I enjoy getting feedback from our customers too, and it's fun. I mean, it's really, we're so blessed over there, and everybody does a great job. I mean, it's almost like an ego deal. I mean, every table tells you how great you are, so it's pretty hard not to go by.
Yeah, I guess.
And then you run into a few people and you get to chat a little bit, or there'll be people out of town and they want to tell you. I'll ask them, how'd you decide to come here? And so it's really fun for me. But it's all about relationships. It doesn't matter what kind of business you're in. It's all about relationships. And it's gotten to where we have a lot of people that come in 2 and 3 times a week at Two Johns, and we know their name and what they drink. I mean, if you come once a week, we know your name, we know what you drink, and not only me, my staff does too, and that's big. I'll never forget. I have customers all the time tell me, we love coming here, and he said one of the reasons is of course your food and service and music and cocktails are good, but everybody knows me. He says, I go somewhere else, I'm just a number.
Yeah.
I come to Two Johns, I feel like, I get special treatment. And we try and do that to everybody that comes in the restaurant. And that's one of the reasons I touch those tables every night. I mean, there's some nights I don't feel like doing it, and I pretty much make myself do it, because I know how important it is. And sure enough, I was so glad after it happened, because there's somebody from out of town or somebody I needed to meet or see that was actually in the restaurant that night, So, yeah, it's just about relationships, and we try and we do a good job like that. Not only me, my managers do well too, And so, in fact, I'll never forget, we had a bar manager who was with us for 5 years, and he, the first month or so, he watched me work the room, And the next thing I know, he's out there working the room too. And then all of a sudden, man, he's got so many regulars just because he's working that room. People like to be recognized. It's human nature. I mean, I even like to be recognized. Yeah. I mean, and so, when a guy walks in, he says, well, hey, John, how are you doing? And this and that, and that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And if you're sitting in a restaurant and you've got a couple with you, and chef comes by and says hello, or I come by and say hello, and I mean, that's a pretty big deal. So that's one of the reasons we do that.
Yeah, I think it's great, and it's one of those things, like, even if you're just coming to have a drink, you've had a long day. You come to sit at the bar. You're not just the guy at the bar. Someone has a conversation. It humanizes that. I think it's extremely important, and I think that is missed a lot in the food service industry.
Absolutely.
Where people just get so concentrated on cash flow, they lose sight of what it is that made that business what it is in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just like I say, it's just kind of like I say, I have a lot of fun doing it, and I'm kind of one of these guys too that if it's not broke, I don't try and fix it. And we've been, a lot of times we'll have one of the managers want to do something different and this and that, and like I said, if it's working, it's hard to change my mind.
Yeah.
Now if it's not working, then we need to address it. But So yeah, it's fun every night for me. And you know, and like I said, when I get tired, I go home, and that might be at 8 o'clock, might be 8:30, might be 9, and then you know, some nights if I don't feel like going, I just don't come. But I usually enjoy going up, you know. So hopefully I'll be able to do that for a while. You know?
I think. Well, also, how did you get how did y'all get the bar together? Like, how did that come to fruition? Because I know you know the restaurant part, but like your cocktails are amazing. You have a great wine list. You have a great choice of liquors. Like, how did that happen?
Well, you know, I didn't know that venue. Obviously, I was on the barbecue business, but everybody I put around me was in that venue.
Gotcha.
Executive Chef Josh, John, Stacy, all those people key people around me all knew the fine dining business. And, you know, of course, the bar was kind of you know, John and Josh knew the bar a little bit. I didn't know much about a bar, but it was kind of, we started off thinking we needed a bar manager, and we didn't, so we didn't have a bar manager, and just kind of grew that bar. I mean, I remember when we first opened that restaurant, the bar, you know, I had live music from day one. You know, I'm the only, every day.
And that's another thing. What made you make that decision?
Well, I knew that, you know, people, you know, if you go out somewhere and you want to have a cocktail, you know, of course, I love live music. I just love live music. A lot of people are like me, and I just felt like we needed to have live music every night. And of course, the first 3 or 4 years, or maybe not 3 or 4, first couple years during the week, I mean, you could shoot a shotgun through that bar, even with the live music.
Yeah.
Then the weekends we were busy, but it took a while to kind of educate Bossier City, because Bossier had never had a venue like this before. They never had live music every night, or an upscale bar, or an upscale restaurant. And so we kind of had to educate them. So we kind of learned with them as far as the bar goes, and we just kind of grew. And then finally we needed a bar manager, and then we started out with them. I started out with a bartender and 2 cocktails.
Really? What were they? What were the cocktails?
With their names, I can't remember. That's 16 years ago. But now, to show you the difference, of course, we've had a couple expansions, and we expanded last time on the bar side. We got an indoor patio in a courtyard now, but we started out with a bartender, not a bar manager, and 2 cocktails. Today we have a bar manager, assistant bar manager, and I want to say 8 cocktails. So that's how much we've grown.
Yeah.
Just on the bar side.
And every single one of them's amazing.
They're all good.
Because I mean, I'd put your old fashioned up against
my old fashioned.
A lot of people. Man,
my old fashioned is pretty good now.
Look, I know.
Yeah, you know, we barrel age that in an oak barrel for about 3 months before we put it in the bar, and we got a great recipe, and it's the number 1 selling cocktail in the restaurant. Now we'll sell more martinis, but as far as specific martinis against that old fashioned, like we'll sell on Friday and Saturday night, it's nothing for us to sell 100 old fashions.
Yeah.
You know, it's the number 1 selling cocktail. But we actually have, you know, both Jordan and Kelsey are both really mixologists over there, and the people I've had prior to them were mixologists, and that's the difference.
It's a huge difference.
They know, and I pushed them to be very creative. I had a bar manager, Nate Loggins, years ago, and Nate was a big wine guy, but Nate was very creative about his cocktails, and we kind of carried that forward. We still use a lot of Nate's recipes, and like we do martinis with frozen granitas, and you know, a little frozen ice called granita. Nobody else has that.
Yeah.
And in fact, I'm not going to tell you, but we had who the restaurant was, but we had one restaurant bar manager come in a year ago and asked my bar manager how we made those granitas. Of course, Jordan just laughed at him, you know, because we weren't going to tell him how we made them or what was in them. I mean, because we're the only one doing it, you know. And then we've got a lot of barrel-aged drinks. Besides the old-fashioned, we do a Manhattan. That's in the barrel. It's fabulous. We do a barrel-aged margarita.
That's my favorite, the barrel-aged margarita.
And I'll put that against
guy.
Yeah, I'll put that against. I mean, so we've got a lot of unique cocktails in the bar, and Kelsey and Jordan are always coming up with new ones, almost monthly, and I love that about the bar. And we do the same thing on the restaurant side. We always have features off the menu every week, a different soup every week, and I like that because we have so many people that come, you know, 2 and 3 times a week. It gives them, not that our menu isn't good, I think it's very good, but it gives them other choices off the menu, so they know when they come. I hate when you go to a restaurant, you look at the same menu every time you go in. In fact, we just changed our menu up Tuesday.
I saw the post.
And it's been a while. It's been a while since we've done that, but like I say, we always have features off the menu every week, so it's not like you're going to come in here and you don't have other choices. And sometimes we have more than one feature. And then, of course, for lunch, we always have a feature for lunch. Like tomorrow, our feature is red beans and rice, which is one of my favorites. But, you know, we do a chicken fried steak. We do an enchilada. We do all kind of stuff, you know. And but I like that. I like having features and choices for people in the bar, in the restaurant. So if you are a regular and you come a lot, you know, you've got other choices.
Yeah, that I remember. I've only been graduated. I probably graduated high school right around the time you opened that restaurant, or right there close. I was, what year did you open?
We opened in 09.
Yeah, okay, so I was in 07. But I remember growing up in like Halton, you know, like the only place to come was you can come to Bossier to eat, you know, and you really would just go to like, if you want to go out to eat somewhere nice, was like going to Kobe's or something.
Sure,
you know, that was like where everyone wanted to go. It was a nice restaurant in Bossier.
Absolutely.
And it was like a destination. And I remember getting a little older, old enough to start drinking, and I remember you guys open. But what's so great about it is, like I said, I've been so many different places, and it's very hard to find a craft cocktail here.
It really is.
It's very hard to find a consistent good steak. The key word's consistent. I'm not saying there's not good. There's a lot of good steaks.
With cocktails too.
Correct. Where every time I'm getting the same drink.
That's right. Made the same way.
Right, made the same way.
Right.
Steak, same way. You know, I know what I like. I know what I like.
Right.
And I'm going there. It's going to be the exact same. I don't have to tell the bartender, you know, whoever, hey, will you do this or do that? Or this don't taste right, you know, or whatever. But that's something that it's always stuck out to me, because I'm one of those people that I'm pretty frugal, but when it comes to like me and the wife going out or taking family out to eat, I don't care. Like, I will spend money on good food and good drinks because I enjoy that, and that's something we can enjoy together.
Yeah, most people will, if you feel like you're getting your money's worth. And to me, that's the difference between a good restaurant and a great restaurant. A good restaurant, you know, they got good food, but might not be as consistent as you like. A great restaurant, it's consistent every night, and there's a way to do that. And it's a little more work, but there's a way to do that. Josh does a great job in the kitchen with that, and Jordan and Kelsey do a good job in that bar. Because, you know, there's one thing I hate about going to a restaurant somewhere and you get it might be, say, their featured cocktail, and you get it and say, boy, that's really good.
Yeah.
And you get another one that tastes totally different.
Exactly.
That's no good. It has to be the same, and there's a way to do that as well. It's a little more work, but that's what I feel like that's what you have to be successful. You have to be consistent.
Yeah.
You know?
It goes a long way, man. It really does.
But it's amazing how many restaurants you go to that are not consistent. They're hit or miss.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how many.
Yeah.
And, of course, you know, being in the restaurant business like I am, I'm a pretty harsh critic. And, I mean, it's amazing. I go to a lot of these restaurants out of town. I think to myself, how in the world are these people making it?
Yeah, man.
You know, it's just crazy.
I'm worse about that. I'm really bad about that with barbecue. I'm like, I get let down a lot.
Well, you know, I don't think I've ever had your barbecue, but, you know, it's like I said, the barbecue around here, for the most part, the meat has no flavor.
We
to
just
it.
don't have, other than like us small guys who are running trucks or catering, you don't have a lot of traditional anymore, like where people are running straight fire. They're using some utility where it's adding in electric or gas or whatever.
Right, or adding liquid smoke and all that.
Right.
It's just to me, it's just not even close to being the same.
I get that from a business model, trying to scale up. You know what I mean? Trying to scale up and lower your overhead and your time, because there's quite a bit of time that you can. I mean, the first 6 hours are dire, and you got to get all the smoke in the first 6 hours, and it takes quite a bit of time to do that. And if you're even running efficient, you're still putting wood on the fire every 30, 45 minutes, you know?
Well, so what we did at Leon's, we'd always be cooking for the day ahead. Like, I'd be cooking today for tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, and but yeah, because that meat would be on that pit almost all day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we put it on at 10 in the morning, you'd be taking off at 3, 4, 5 in the afternoon.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's a lot of people trying to scale. They just don't want to do that, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it really is.
That's why I tell you, barbecue's a young man's deal.
Yeah, but I've noticed that I'm the worst critic about that, and I'm a really harsh critic about like cocktails too, because going so many different places. I guess really, like, you have an amazing establishment. There's another couple places around here that I enjoy, you know, going and having some drinks at. Chase over there under the bridge, he has a lot of, you know, good whiskeys and stuff.
Sure. Yeah,
they have a good cocktails, a couple good cocktails there.
A lot of bourbons. Yeah.
A lot of bourbons. I'm not a bourbon guy. I'm a tequila guy, but still, I just appreciate a really great cocktail that's taking time. Now, it's hard to do that if you're serving hundreds of people at a bar.
And that's the problem with the craft cocktails. You know, like we've got some, but when you've got that bar we have that's making all the cocktails for the dining room, the bar, the patio, it's just, you can't spend, 10 minutes making a cocktail.
No.
I mean, it'd be nice, but you don't have that kind of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But another dynamic I like about your place is that you can go there mid-afternoon, have a drink, have an appetizer, or you can go at lunch, have a business lunch, not drink.
Sure.
Decent price.
Sure.
Amazing food, or you can take your lady out for dinner and I feel like you have like 3 or 4 completely different experiences depending on the mood and the setting.
Yeah. Well, the lunch menu is totally different.
Yeah.
And like I said, we always have a feature off that menu. We do a feature dessert. We do a key lime pie just for Friday lunch. Yeah, you're right.
Because I've been in every one of those moods at that place, and I love it.
Yeah.
I just love that. Depending on what it is, it's some establishments similar to yours. Like it's this is what you're going to get, but you have. I feel like you guys have evolved to where you have a few different crowds and a few different temperatures depending on.
Well, we're blessed. We get all generations. In my restaurant, that's what you want, because obviously the younger ones are your future. But we get all different generations in our restaurant, where you get some restaurants in Shreveport have just got that older crowd.
Yeah.
And that's great, but what happens when they're not here anymore?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
So you need the young ones too, okay? But the thing I really like about our restaurant too is, if you think about it, especially on we're closed Sunday, Monday, but on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, as far as coming to the bar and having a cocktail, and I mean, where else you can listen to live music?
I know.
I think there's a restaurant in Shreveport that doesn't have it Monday or Tuesday. I think he's maybe Wednesday or maybe Thursday through the weekend. But where are you going to go? Well, in Bossier, where are you going to go? Nowhere.
Yeah.
Nobody has live music on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And like I said, there's not many places in Shreveport that have it. And I think what's kind of happened is, now almost everybody has at least live music on the weekends, and I really feel like, and I could be wrong about this, but I really feel like everybody's kind of copied what we've done, because I've had it from day one, and I realized how important it was to have. And it's one of those things where you got to stick with it. You can't just have it for 3 or 4 or 5 months and say, well, golly, this isn't going to work. I mean, like I said, the first couple of years in my restaurant on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, you could shoot a shotgun through that bar, but I knew it was going to take a while to educate Bossier. Now, my bars, the only night we're not slammed in the bar is probably Tuesdays, and some Tuesdays we're even slammed.
You're about to be, because when people start hearing this, you'll be like, that's the night I need to go.
Well, it is. I mean, Tuesday night is the softest night in the bar, not in the restaurant. We're blessed. We're busy in the restaurant every night, but like on Tuesday nights, we're half to 3/4 full in the bar on Tuesday. Now, the rest of the nights, we're slammed. So if you want to, Tuesday's the night to come.
Yeah.
In fact, I've been trying to figure out a way to get more people there Tuesday. I mean, say our bar's half full, 3/4 full on Tuesdays, but I want it full.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to think of a way. We do a ladies' night on Wednesdays, which is really good. Ladies enjoy happy hour all night long, and that's been real good for us. But here again, I imagine there's a lot of people out there, and hopefully someone will hear this podcast that don't know we have live music every night. And like I said, if you want to go somewhere on a Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday and listen to live music and, have a nice meal, just have a couple cocktails, I mean, we've got it.
Yeah.
But I knew from the start that the live music was going to play big in the bar.
Yeah, that's something that people have slowly adopted, and you probably were the pioneer of it in this area. But one of those things is, it works. It works.
Right.
It's a lot better to sit in a restaurant and hear music instead of hearing that other couple's conversation or whatever it may be. You know what I mean? Just breaks up it creates a new vibe too.
And I think what we do well too is it's more of a background type music, where I make sure that music's not, one of the things I do there is that, and I make sure it's not too loud where you can't talk.
Right.
You've got to be able to have a conversation. You go to some places and the music's so loud you can't even talk.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big mistake. So I think that's kind of unique. In fact, that's the thing at Leon's, when I was in the barbecue business, used to upset me. Everybody used to copy everything I did, and it used to infuriate me. And everybody said, well, that's flattery. I said, to hell with flattery. Let them do their own thing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way I've always been. I always kind of done my own thing. But everybody says, well, why don't you do this and why don't you do that? Well, everybody else is doing that.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I want to do something different, and that's kind of what we do it to, John.
I mean, whatever you're doing is working.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly right.
What well, how was it going through because I always like when I have any chef owner, restaurant owner or anything, how was it like going through the COVID, the pandemic, and all the stuff, and what did that look like?
Well,
for
we
you
shut
guys?
down for 2.5 months. We tried to do some takeout, but it's hard to do takeout when you're fine dining.
Yeah.
And we felt like we had so many people, sick on the staff, like everybody else, that we felt like it wasn't worth the risk to do the takeout. So we closed for 2.5 months, and but what worked for us though is we started our second expansion about 6 weeks prior to COVID. So it kind of gave us something to do during the COVID. We added the first year I was there, we added, we only had like one room we could close off and do farm parties or parties. It was the back room. And after the first year, we had to turn down like 40, 50 parties. And I told my son, I said, man, we need another room. So we added, like if you walk in a restaurant on the right side, we had that front room the first year. It gave us 2 banquet rooms to where we could, do 2 farms or 2 parties. And that was big for us. And then about 6 weeks before COVID, we added, on the bar side, we added a wine cellar that we really needed. I've got about 800 different selections. We got a great wine list for Bossier City. I mean, we've got a 2-glass award from Wine Spectator. There's only 6 restaurants that have that. Now, there's some in New Orleans that have a 3-glass award. Now, we'll never get 3 glass. You got to have about $2 million tied up in wine. But we have a 2-glass award, which is really big. A lot of selections. So we did a wine cellar, and we did an indoor patio, which has been huge for the restaurant because we have 9 more tables out there, and it's heated, air conditioned, and we can sit about 50 on that patio. So it gives us a third banquet room. Like tonight, I've got 3 pharmaceuticals. We've got 1 on the patio, 1 in the back room, and 1 in the front room. And so it gave us another banquet room. And then when we weren't using it for a banquet room, we use it on the weekends. We need the extra tables. We were turning away so much business. That's why we decided to expand. We've got 9 tables that pop up out there, so we can seat 50. And then we did a courtyard. I'm from New Orleans, so we did a courtyard, which is kind of our take on New Orleans. And we have 4 tables out there, a fountain and a couch. And it's really kind of nice. The only problem with that is the way our weather is in Louisiana. Spring, in the spring and the fall, there's maybe 2 or 3 weeks you can sit out there, and the rest of the time it's too hot or too cold, although we do have fans that move the air around. And really, when the summertime, by about 5 o'clock, the sun's on the other side of the building with those fans out there, it's really pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
But so that's kind of what we did, during COVID was, it took us about 6, 7, 8 months to do all that. So it kind of gave us something to do. Like I said, we're close 2.5 months, then we were able to open back up, and we're still working on expansion. But
well, you probably had a good foundation and good client base that supported you as soon as you opened back up, I'm sure.
Oh, we did.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the beautiful thing about a restaurant. Our base is really big now, and it gets bigger every year. And so, Bossier's been behind me 100%. I mean, they've really been good to us. Bossier has.
And you said, so you're from New Orleans. What brought you up here? When did you come up here?
I was, my dad was in the insurance business, and he ran Continental Insurance in New Orleans. He had 500 people underneath him. And we had an oil man. I guess I was about 12. However old in 5th grade. I was in 5th grade when I went to Riverside when I moved
Something
up there.
like that, 11, 12, yeah.
Somewhere in that area. They had an old man, J.C. Trahan, offered Daddy to double his salary to come up to Shreveport and run an insurance agency. And Dad really didn't want to leave New Orleans. There's probably 50 Montelepres down there right now. I mean, and they're all kin to me. And Dad, just didn't want to leave. But it's kind of hard back in the 60s when somebody doubles your salary not to move. So that's kind of how we got up to Shreveport. And I've been here ever since.
Yeah. What's some stuff that have you integrated? What have y'all integrated like New Orleans style into your menu or anything like that?
I think I don't know if it's so much like that, but like what we have. I'm trying to think of how many chefs we got besides Josh. Josh Wilkins is our executive chef.
Shout out Josh. I love Josh. He's
yeah,
awesome.
And then he's got. I want to say we got 4 or 5 sous chefs back there, not line cooks. And that's a big advantage because chefs are real passionate about what they let come out of that restaurant, that kitchen. They're not going to let just anything come out of that. Whereas you get a line cook, he don't give a damn.
Yeah.
But those chefs now, they're not going to let just anything go out to that dining room. So that's a big deal, and that's one of the reasons our food is good, is because we've got people back there that care about what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal.
It makes a huge difference. It really does.
Well, it does. Absolutely, it does. We've been very, very blessed. Yelp last year gave us #1 steakhouse in the whole state. About 7 or 8 years ago, Open Table looked at 10,000 restaurants, and we are top 100 in the whole country. There were 6 in Louisiana that got it, and we were the only one in North Louisiana, so we got that award. And of course, the local SB awards, we've pretty much swept those the last 2 or 3 years. So, but I think that's one of the reasons why we've got people at the restaurant that care about what they're doing, and that's a big deal.
Yeah. It's not just a job; it's a passion.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, what's so tough about the restaurant business, DJ, is you can't have an off night. You have to be on point every night, because if somebody comes into your restaurant and they have a good meal, you're lucky if they tell anybody. But if they come in there and have a bad meal, guess what?
It's telling everybody.
With social media and what we have today, so you have got to be on point every night. You can't have an off night, and that's what's so tough about our business. Especially, like I say, with all this social media now.
Yeah.
Everybody's a food critic.
They really are.
They really are. Look, we'll have somebody. I'm real proud of our reviews we get, especially on Open Table, because I know on Open Table, unlike these other, like Yelp and these other services, you actually have to be in my restaurant to make a review. To where you can go on Yelp or some of these other services, and you can make a review, and you might never eat in my restaurant.
Yeah.
I look more at the ones from Open Table carry a little more weight with me, and I forgot where I was going with this now.
You were talking about being consistent in reviews and yeah.
Yeah, I forgot why I was going to tell you this story, but that's what happens. See, when you get my age, you have these brain farts, and if you already get them, it's going to get worse.
I know.
That's all I'm going to tell you. Anyway, like I say, I forgot where I was going with that story, but anyway.
Well, what have you seen in the economic and political climate in the past couple of years, and where do you think you're at right now, and do you think we're going to continue to grow just from a business perspective? Have your industry, have you seen like any changes there, or are you still?
The only thing we've grown every year until we hit COVID.
Okay.
Every year I did more than I did the previous year, and then of course once we did the expansion after COVID, our numbers are even bigger because we have 9 more tables plus the courtyard. So that's a big deal. But I think, since the election, I think everybody's really optimistic. People are a little scared like they've been the last couple of years under the previous administration. People stopped spending money. I mean, we've done fine. My numbers are really good, and we've been fine. But people get a little tight with that money. But I think we're in for a real good 4 years for sure. And I think it'll take this new administration, I think it might take them 6-8 months, maybe a year to start seeing prices come down some, but eventually they're going to come down. So I think that's a real good thing. So yeah. I'm real positive about the future.
Yeah. Well, what things are you going to do? What do you guys plan on doing moving forward? You just keep on keeping on? Do you have things planned?
We're probably done expansion wise. We've done 2 expansions now. We just got to keep doing what we do every night, and just be consistent every night and keep doing what we're doing. And I think the economy is going to be okay. So I don't think we have any immediate plans. We're just trying to fine tune what we have. I know the last couple of weeks, John and Josh and Stacy and Jordan, my managers, have kind of been doing a little more training it doesn't hurt to do training every few months, to keep your staff sharp. And then right now we're going through some of that. And so I think that's a good thing. We're just trying to be better at what we do.
Yeah.
You never be too good.
No, consistency, like you said.
Just stay sharp and try and do better what we're doing, and just keep doing what we're doing. And I think we'll be fine.
Awesome. Well, man, I enjoyed it today. Honestly, I really, really admire you guys. Everything you have, like I said, I've never been there and had a bad experience.
We can't afford you to have a bad experience.
Exactly, and I agree. And I don't put a lot of people on a pedestal because honestly, I'm a pretty harsh critic. And it's just because, look, man, if I feel like I can make it at the house better,
yeah, why go out?
Right, why go out? Why spend the money? And but if I can go out and relax and not worry about if my steak's cooked wrong or not worried about if my food's going to be good or not worried about if my drinks. If I just go out and say, I'll sign that check. I don't care what it is. I'm enjoying myself, and I'm here to not think about anything. You know, it's rare to do that, and there's only a select few places I feel like I can do that, and your establishment is one of them. And so I respect you guys for that. And just the caveat, you adding on the barbecue thing, I didn't know until, you come and judge the competition a couple months back. I was like, well, that's even more exciting. I got to talk to him about that stuff.
We know you can get that barbecue sandwich at lunch at Two Johns.
Your old school one?
The one I had at Leon's. It's a pulled pork. And I mean, it's fabulous. The problem I have with, I wish I could find the turkey I had. I'd love to put a turkey sandwich on my lunch menu, DJ. But I had some people in West Texas that did all the turkeys for us, and they did it by my specs. And there's different grades of turkeys. A lot of people don't know that. We used a grade A turkey, and it took them. They must have sent me 10 turkeys before they got the recipe right. But once they got it right, I mean, I had a great turkey. I had a great fried turkey too. And, when we opened Two Johns, I tried to find a turkey that was comparable because the people that I used to use went out of business at COVID, or actually before COVID. And I was trying to find something comparable to the turkey I had so I could do a turkey sandwich because I knew everybody was going to compare it to what I had at Leon's.
Yeah.
And I hadn't found anything close. And that's why we don't have a turkey sandwich. I would love to have a turkey sandwich on lunch.
I haven't been able to find, I haven't messed with it. I haven't been able to find a turkey that I'm happy about or feel good about from a barbecue perspective since I got into it, honestly. But I've been easing towards a lot more brisket. I started as a lot of pork stuff, a lot of ribs, a lot of pork butt, just because it's easy to scale, and for doing it kind of DIY, you kind of start that way, and then gotten into a lot more like short ribs and briskets and a lot of beef cuts. But that's pretty much like. That's the spread, man. I like the traditional chicken ribs brisket, and then adding in some of those select beef cuts is exciting.
Well, we've got a barbecue pit in the back of the restaurant that we use real hickory wood with to do those pork butts for that barbecue pork sandwich we do on Friday.
Oh, so you're still smoking?
You need, In fact, it reminds me so much of Leon's. Yeah. And sometimes a little bit of that smoke gets in the restaurant.
Oh, that's great.
That's a great smell. Yeah.
During the catering season, from like October to December, I'm gonna smell like it 24/7.
So you've never had our barbecue sandwich?
I've never had it.
You need to come get it.
I'm going to. I've never had it.
It's still top 3 biggest sellers. It used to be number 1 for.
Well, it means a lot more now knowing you did that.
Sure.
When you just see a pulled pork and you don't know, it's like a pulled pork. Yeah, it's probably good, but now that I know that it's something that means something, and it's actually the same recipe and all that, means a lot.
In fact, I made the sauce last night. I'm the only one that makes the sauce there. I won't give everybody that recipe.
Heck yeah.
My son knows it, but like we've got a quail and grits on a new menu, which we got that Leon's barbecue sauce. And of course, the pulled pork has the barbecue, and then we do. Let's see, what else does he do with that sauce? He does a few little things for it. What we do is he'll do a. What's the word I'm looking for? But anyway, we use that sauce in the recipe. I mean, the restaurant some, and that's kind of fun. You know?
That's awesome.
But you need to come get that barbecue.
I'm going
sandwich.
to. I'm going to come next Friday.
Yeah, you need to come get that barbecue sandwich.
I will. Well, let's wrap this thing up. Is there anything else you'd like to throw out there before we close out?
I'm good, man. They probably wonder where I am at the
you got to get out of here.